I hate doing videos. I do. I hate doing videos. But I love hearing from God. And so when God shares something with me and He wants me to share it with you, the only way for me to do it is through these videos. So it takes me a long time to go from hearing from God and posting a video. So this video should have come out November 14th of 2025. So this is pretty good. This is only like a week late, only a week late. So this message is for believers, okay? Believers. And so I'm going to give it to you the way God gave it to me, which is straight up with no chaser, okay? So God was talking about husbands and wives, relationships, marriages, okay? And what he wanted me to say to believers is in Genesis 3, where Adam and Eve have already eaten the apple, God shows up. He's talking to Adam, he's talking to Eve, he's talking to Satan. And he basically says, because Adam and Eve disobeyed, this is the fall of man. So we're now under a curse. But he also curses Satan. And he says, like, I'm going to put enmity. What is that meaning? Hostility between you and Eve's seed. So the children will now have a problem with Satan, and Satan will have a problem with the children, with the offspring. And he also tells Adam, because you disobeyed, now you're going to have to work your behind off to see profit, to have fruit. Because before you were in the Garden of Eden and everything was given to you. So we're now under this curse. Now, fast forward. God had a plan, of course, and that was Jesus. So Jesus comes, and now Jesus takes on the curse. He died. He was buried. Okay, so crucified, buried, resurrected, which gave us this dispensation of grace. So now we're no longer under the curse. But this Christian teaching has been that husbands are still supposed to be over their wives, but that was the curse. Jesus came and removed the curse. He became the curse for us. So if you're still living under this assumption that man is supposed to be over woman, you're living under the curse. You have that right to try to still follow those laws, okay? So the curse was you followed all these laws, okay? We're no longer under the law, we're under grace. Jesus died for us, we are now under grace. So you can either be under the law or under grace. If you're under the law, then you have to live by all of the laws. All of the laws, not just the husbands over the wives law. All of the laws, the tithing, which is a whole different topic, but all of the laws, all of the old laws you still have to live by, not just the one where husbands are over the wives, okay? Not where wives, your desire is going to be towards your husbands, and husbands will rule over you. Curse, that was the curse. Jesus became the curse, took on the curse. So you can't say now, Jesus took on every curse except for the one where husbands are over the wives. Okay? So here's the scriptures to back up what God is saying. Okay? So in Genesis 3:15 and 16, this is where God is having the conversation with Adam, Eve, and Satan. And then God now comes down to, that was the law, that was the curse. And then Jesus comes, and Jesus becomes the curse. And so therefore, we're no longer under the law, no longer under a curse. We're under grace, the dispensation of grace. We now have the Holy Spirit residing in us if we are believers, okay? So if you are a believer, then you go to Galatians 3, verse 13. Then you go, also you can read Galatians 3, verse 11 through 13. God says we are children of promise. We're no longer under this curse. We're under grace. We're children of promise. And then you go Galatians 4, verse 9. And then you can go Galatians 4, verse 28 through 31. You can go to Galatians 5, verse 1 through 6. And it talks about we are no longer under a curse. Jesus died for us. The curse was removed. Now, you have two choices, of course. You can still go by the law, live under the curse, but you have to obey every single law. And just for clarity, let's just go the law being the 10 commandments. There were more than 10, but just those 10, just the 10 that we grew up with. So you cannot deviate from any of the 10 if you're going to still be under this law teaching or believing. If you want to go by that, then you can go the 10 commandments, excuse me, and then you can apply those 10 commandments. Do not deviate, because you'll be judged on living perfectly on your own if you want to stay under the curse, under the law. But if you want to be under grace, under dispensation of grace, then you accept Jesus as the one who became the curse, took away the curse for us, and now we live under grace. Okay? So we're children of promise. We live under grace. We accept grace, and if we do, then we don't live under the law. One of the reasons why the divorce rate is so high, okay, we keep blaming the behaviors of the women or the behaviors of the men. The problem is you're trying to live under a law that does no longer apply, okay? That's why life is so hard for married couples. You're supposed to be the way it was before the curse. Before the curse, Adam and Eve didn't have issues. They could work things out. It wasn't all this pulling apart. That didn't exist before the curse. It didn't exist before Satan tempted them. And that's what's happening now. That's why you have so many issues now. Husbands and wives are supposed to be a team. It's not supposed to be, I'm over you. I control you. So anyone who's teaching that is teaching you to be under the law. And if you're under that law, then you have to abide by all of the laws. No mixing of fabrics and cotton with other synthetic things and all that kind of nonsense. None of that applies to those of the promise, those of us under grace. But again, if you're living under the law, then you have to apply all of the laws. Okay? All of the laws. So Christians believe one thing. Believers who accept the promise, who are under grace, believe something else. We know within our hearts what's right and what's wrong. You're trying to live under something that doesn't apply to you. That's the issue. So again, straight up no chaser. Live under the law or live under grace. Christian belief, believers. The Holy Spirit's trying to tell you this is not how you're supposed to live. You cannot be under the law and under grace at the same time. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve two masters. So you're either living under the law or you're living under the dispensation of grace. Pick one. But you can't do both, because you'll love one and hate the other. You can't straddle the fence. Pick one. Law or grace, but you can't mix the two. No oil and water. Okay?